Thank you, everyone. I'm Jonathan, third-year resident at Greater Lawrence Family Health Center.
Fourth-year resident.
So we're just going to tell you a brief story about caring for supervisors at our clinic. So we're going to start with Jose, one of my patients. I met him about a year ago. He had just arrived from the Dominican Republic to come live with his daughter. And it was a great visit. He has like a big laugh and a huge smile. It was a really easygoing visit. Of course, he came with all his medical records and hospitalizations from the Dominican Republic, so it was really easy to get to know all of his past medical history. Not true. If nothing, he did actually though have a list of his meds, and I was like, great, I can do this, I can put those in. I was a little scared about the amiodarone. I was like, why are you on this? He didn't know, and so I was like, all right, well, we'll see what happens with this guy. But we just hit it off. We just clicked, and I was like, great, this is going to be like a nice relationship going forward. So fast forward a year, he's now been hospitalized 4 times, one of which was in the ICU. His ejection fraction, I subsequently found out, is 15%. He's on Coumadin for his AFib. He's now on dialysis. And he also has hyperthyroidism, gout, and diabetes, of course. And so caring for this kind of patient, initially, which I thought was going to be this joyful experience, has turned into this, episodic sensations of being powerless. Like, how can I prevent his next hospitalization? Frustrated that he'll go see a specialist, like actually physically go see the specialist. And of course, I have no idea what happened at that visit. And then just fear of like, am I going to miss something? He's got, his problem list is like at least 8 things active. And, is there something that I'm missing when we're going through this? And so he goes through this cycle, right? And we sort of came up with this idea of the superutilizer life cycle. And so, at baseline, he's very sick medically, and then socially as well. And in this case, he's actually fairly stable. He has a place to live. He has a daughter who cares about him a ton. Comes to all of his visits, even though she has to work, and somehow makes that work. But despite all that, there can be these moments of crisis. And in that moment of crisis, the place to go is the emergency room. And then you have, the ED doctor who sees his list and is like, all right, you're going to get admitted. Because to send that patient home is almost too difficult. Then he gets hospitalized, and then he goes right back into that same system. And we all have patients like Jose. Most probably even have even more complicated patients like Jose. And so we want to talk about what we hope to do for this patient, but also all the patients that you guys have as well.
So it's because of patients like Jose that we wanted to do something about it at our health center. So we have been involved with, there's the super utilizer movement. I'm sure many of you have heard about it. It kind of got big press with the hot spotters and the Camden Coalition. And it's something that is continuing to evolve and coming more to the forefront, especially in the changing landscape of healthcare and how we're paying for it as we go from fee-for-service models to care quality-based models. And so at our FQHC, which is very different than Camden Coalition, it's a FQHC. We don't have any MacArthur Fellows, Genius Grants, but we do have a lot of people that really care about patients like Jose and want to make a difference. And so we are setting up a multidisciplinary team, including a community health worker, nurse, residents, a faculty member, medical assistants, pharmacists, and psychologists to help really dive deep into what's causing Jose to keep coming back to the hospital. And so our goals are to facilitate care coordination, to help with the social services, address those social determinants of health that are driving part of this, to do medication reconciliations, and to help with behavioral health aspects. Even if, like Jose, he may not be depressed, but there is a lot of mental trauma that comes from being in the hospital, coming to a new country, and the complexity of his health situation. And the real goal is to provide wraparound services not only to help the patient and get him healthier, but also to help the PCP and support them in these complex patients where every time you see them on your schedule you kind of sigh or roll your eyes because you know that it's going to be a difficult appointment. And so the reason why this is a power story, we don't have necessarily the success with this yet, but it is something that we find very empowering and very motivating because these really are the most vulnerable patients that we have. these are the patients that our system is chronically failing, because despite everything that we do, they keep going back to the hospital, and we feel like we're turning our wheels. And so if we can make a difference in these patients' lives, then that's the greatest victory of all, and we can feel really good about that. And you don't have to be Camden Coalition, anybody can be involved in this, and it's been energizing to be with other organizations that are involved and to get ideas from them, and it's becoming really a big movement that we're inviting everybody to join. And especially because with this evolving landscape of healthcare, this is the future, using data and patient empowerment to really dive to the depths of the complexity of what is causing them to be sick and to use the system. And so, interestingly enough, I was able to see John's patient, Jose, and I totally agree. He's somebody who's really touches you because he is so friendly and so engaging. You want to move the heaven and earth for him, and he keeps ending up in the hospital. It's because of patients like those that we're motivated to really, in the end, it is kind of like moving heaven and earth to change the system so that we can be successful for these patients.